I grew up in a strictly Christian home. In the second grade, I was identified as gifted with an IQ of 150. After this, my parents had very high expectations for me and held me to an impossibly high standard of excellence. Simultaneously, the school system fell farther and farther behind what I was able to learn. The end result was that I was under immense pressure to achieve perfection in what, to me, was essentially uninteresting busy work. At puberty, hormones kicked in, and with them years of ingrained Christian ideology about sex, my parents had ruled that one good use of my intelligence was to memorize vast swats of the Bible, one of which was the verse, "Anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart." If your right eye causes you to sin, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than your whole body to be thrown into hell. Before I even know what the word masturbate, I was doing it, and the whole reasoning seemed obvious. If lust is adultery, then whatever this is I'm doing has got to be 100 times worse than that. I spent the next 4 years or so trying to control my sexual urges and failing again and again. I suffered all this without telling anyone about it. I later learned that my then church actually takes a slightly creepy but less damaging stance on masturbation. Pray before and after and it's okay. But it was such a taboo topic that nobody had ever told me this, and I was always too afraid and embarrassed to ask. My sexual repression combined with my frustration with my education eventually caused me to snap in junior high school. I completely lost interest in school. I also rebelled against my parents. I started drinking and smoking pot before most of my peers, and was arrested, though luckily never charged, for drugs, vandalism, and fighting. I barely graduated high school with a 2.1 GPA, and this was mostly due to a few talented teachers who saw some potential behind the angry kid with no fashion sense. The odd thing is that I actually learned a lot, which saved me later in college. I just never did any homework or classwork. My grades were mostly carried by test scores. I got into a crappy college and moved into an apartment with a drug dealer as my roommate. Thankfully, I never wanted to try any addictive drugs. I certainly had plenty of opportunity. I failed out of college my first year there and started to drink heavily, a 6-pack a night. In a fit of sobriety, I managed to get myself readmitted the following term. I am very good at manipulating people. It's not something I'm proud of. So I basically guilted my way back into the college with the help of some shoddy paperwork. But it was too late at this point. Alcohol controlled my life. I was well up on my way to failing out again when my closest friend, an older neighbor from where I grew up, was diagnosed with brain cancer. It was a very late diagnosis and he died a month later. I stopped even trying to go to school and started drinking 2 6-packs of beer a night. I also stopped eating and drinking anything else for the most part. The closest person to me was my drug dealing roommate, and he basically talked to me to get my half of the rent. Then, one day, my roommate, his girlfriend, and I decided to drop acid. Our mistake was taking it too late in the day. An acid high lasts as long as 8 hours, and by the time I started feeling the effects, it was already late. We walked around the apartment building for a while, admiring the textures of things. Back in the apartment, we tasted all the foods. Then we listened to some music. At this point, the drugs started to overcome the real world, and I was immersed in unfolding, colorful patterns. It was like I was swimming in a kaleidoscope. I found at certain points that I could control the music with my mind. I think at this point, the CD we were listening to had actually ended. At this point, my roommate and his girlfriend went off to their room to have sex, and things started to get unpleasant. As I said earlier, it was late and I was very tired. I tried to go to sleep, but I discovered that I couldn't turn off the music, and it just kept playing on and on. About this time, I had a very sudden, uncontrollable bowel movement. This happens when you consume exclusively beer. I rushed to the bathroom and somehow ended up naked on the toilet, literally crapping blood, with the music still looping through my head. Then I had the thought that changed everything. There's nobody to talk me out of this bad trip. I'll have to do it myself. That's what I should have done all along. And then I could see, literally, graphed out in shiny 3-dimensional lines, the source of all my problems leading back to myself. My parents? I had moved away and I was letting their beliefs affect me. A friend's death? Not God's fault. There is no God. My drinking? Obviously me. It wasn't spiritual. It was fundamentally mathematical equation that I was discovering, where each of the variables simplified down to the statement that I was the cause. I had to change, and I could change. A lot of drug addicts talk about hitting bottom, but this is quite the opposite experience. Yes, I was sitting naked in my own bloody stool at this point, but I was exhilarated by the fact that I didn't have to be there. It was, in a way, hitting top. I got up, showered, and cleaned the bathroom from top to bottom, fixed myself a PB&J, and then went to bed and slept the most peaceful sleep I have ever had. Since then, I transferred colleges, moved into my own apartment, and started carrying a relationship with a truly awesome woman who I respect and who respects me. I'll graduate at the end of this school year, and my last year, I kept a 4.0. I won't say that I have everything under control. I don't, but I'm happy with where I am and where I'm going. I still drink, but only in moderation. Once or twice a week, 1 or 2 beers at a time. I have taken LSD twice since that night, and both times it was the same. Frightening, unsettling, and exhilarating. And it reminds me of who I am and who I need to be. Hope you guys enjoyed today's story. Thank you so much for listening. Credits to the Redditor /obvioalt. This story was posted 14 years ago. So, awesome story. Now on to more. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. So, don't forget to sit back, relax, and indulge in fear.